517 to scanner control. 517 to scanner control.
This is the Star Wars Squadrons podcast, and this is episode 12 or 13. I can't remember right now. Very happy to have on this guy. I wanted to have him on for a bit. Zultri on the podcast this week. Thanks for being on, buddy.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Yeah, and it's funny. Yeah, you've been, from what I remember, you've been playing this game since launch, too, right? Like all year?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and
Basically every day.
I mean, unless I remember there's a few times where you had some PC problems that you got kind of shut out, but I feel like that was the only the only time you really stopped playing.
Yeah, for a couple weeks.
So,
Thank you, Alienware.
pardon me?
I said thank you, Alienware.
Oh, of course, yeah. So, how did you first hear about Squadrons?
I think it was Eckhart's Ladder's YouTube channel had some videos on it, actually. Before it released, like with them doing some like early footage and videos on it. And it looked quite interesting because I used to play the Rogue Squadron games on the N64 and GameCube, so...
Oh my god, that's the exact same place where I came from too, playing on the N64 specifically. I didn't realize that there was the GameCube was sort of a console that I missed out on, and there's a ton of games that people kind of look back on pretty fondly from that GameCube era too. Anyways, Rogue Squadron was one of them, and a great sequel apparently was on there that I never played. I never played at all. What was that Rogue Squadron on GameCube like? Do you remember it at all?
On the GameCube?
Yeah.
I mean, it was basically the Rogue Squadron for N64 with a little bit tighter controls and better graphics.
Did you play a lot of those Star Wars games growing up? Were you always like a Star Wars fan?
Oh yeah. Huge Star Wars fan. I actually own none of the new stuff, mind you, the new books, but the old expanded universe. I own every book.
So then, I mean, it's kind of then a no-brainer if you're a gamer. You've liked Rogue Squadron in the past, and then you hear about this new Squadrons game coming out. You were pretty excited from hearing about it on Eckhart's Ladder. What were your thoughts about what it was going to be when it was like coming out?
I mean, I didn't really know what it was going to be. I just knew it was a Star Wars Starfighter game, and I haven't not played them. So
you played the
It was mandatory.
Did you play the Starfighter Assault one on Battlefront too?
I played Battlefront 1, the new Battlefront 1. It was okay, the little Starfighter game mode, but I never picked up Battlefront 2. In fact, I still don't have it.
Yeah, I think I downloaded it like for the EA access, like early when it was, new, and kind of like before that. There was that period where it was still exciting before they dropped the whole money grab thing that people freaked out about. Yeah, obviously. And I've never re-downloaded it and tried it out since, which is one of those things where over time they kind of like saved that game a bit, right? Like it became more popular later on.
For me, it wasn't really anything to do with the microtransactions per se. I didn't like the first one at all. I thought it was not a good Battlefront. So
early on in Squadrons 2, you were playing on a console, right? What did you start out on?
Xbox One.
So how long before you switched from Xbox to PC, and what was your thinking there? Why did you do it?
I switched to PC like mid-December, and it was because I was trying to do YouTube on a PC that I had here while capturing from the Xbox, and that PC would overheat trying to render a video in like 2 minutes. So I just bought a good PC for that, and it's like I might as well play Squadrons on the PC as well. It's just easier to capture and everything.
Oh, totally agree. I remember when I was doing it on the Xbox as well, I would use that like Xbox DVR all the time to like capture stuff, which would be kind of handy. Then also you'd have to wait for stuff to like upload to the thing so you could like download it. It would be like so time consuming. I have been there with problem computers, and yeah, it took me longer. It took me to like, what was it, May or something, like June, before I built my computer and was able to switch over. But yeah, it was a huge move. What did you notice the difference play wise then in the gameplay wise going from console to PC?
Frame rate and resolution. You don't realize how bad the resolution is on the console until you played it on PC on Ultra. It's like on console, I couldn't I was watching streams and people were like targeting turrets and like shooting the turrets off the ships, and I'm just like, I can't see those until I'm within like 10 feet.
Yeah,
of the ship.
It is crazy.
It's just a gray blob.
Yeah, that is a huge. I mean, even were you on a controller? Then I'm assuming when you switched over to PC, you're still on a controller. Yeah. So did you change to an advanced power management or anything like that when you switched over to PC?
I did.
Yeah.
I did. I used Steam Big Picture to bind the Maximize to the controller.
Oh, nice. You know, I've heard people say good things about using Steam Big Picture. I use the Anti-Micro, and I think it's the Elite 2 controller that I'm using sometimes has some issues, I've heard, on programs, but I think Steam is one that it actually works a lot better with.
Yeah, I used an Elite 2 as well.
Oh, do you? Nice. Yeah, so
Big Picture works perfectly fine.
Yeah, I mean, I don't guess it's when people get into like the remapping of like, I don't know, the further stuff that it gets a little complicated and Anti-Micro can't handle it, so I may have to look at that further down the line. And then, I don't know, all that stuff's a little whatever at this point because the game's kind of set. I kind of was thinking, that's what I was thinking about, doing some different remapping and moving things around, but at the same time I'm like, well, then I have to learn a new setup kind of all over. Yeah, like that'll be, I mean, it'll be probably better in a bit if it really works, but yeah.
One thing I did just recently switch on my control setup is you have an Elite 2, so you have it as well. I highly recommend switching to the faceted D-pad instead of the plus sign. It makes power management way easier.
Is the faceted one that's like, it's kind of like a little round?
Like all the little squares? Yeah.
Yeah, I actually have that. I've been using that one for a long time, actually. That's a great call. Yeah, I've actually never, because you know what? That one just came on mine. Like it was the one that was on there or something, or like the first one that I put on. So I've just always had it on. I hadn't even thought about maybe using the alternate, like the bigger one, or like none. The none ones, like not having the plate on it seems crazy to me. That just seems really weird. But maybe if you like it that way, I guess, the indentations. But that seemed weird to me. This one made the most sense. I love. Yeah, the Elite controller is amazing too. That makes it a lot of fun. Did you ever think about getting a flight stick or anything like that? Since it is such a a draw spot, a big part of the.
Funny story is, I actually have rudder pedals and a X52 Pro.
Oh, you do?
That I don't use.
Did you get those? I tried. You get those for Squadrons?
I actually Pierre got new joysticks and stuff for his setup, and he mailed it to me.
Oh, that's nice.
And I tried it for like a week. And I just couldn't get over being bad at the game all of a sudden.
Yeah, you need a new account to play on too to learn on that one, so you can just kind of go back and forth. I kind of found something similar with the HOTAS. Like I got the T-Flight 1 because I wanted to try it. I'd see it. I'm looking at it down on the floor when I was still on Xbox, and it was okay. But then I kind of built the PC right after that, and it was limiting. Like I just did not get. Well, no, it's still fun. It's just you just don't have that many buttons as you may have on the keyboard or with some of the more complex sticks and stuff that are available. So that it's limiting in that way. You can only do so much. But it was cool to try it out and to learn that way. But it's wild. Like using a flight stick for the first time, you just have no control versus
so hard.
Versus like thumbstick. I've also I've played on controllers my whole life, so it just is a lot easier to play there probably. So the whole year too, you've pretty much, maybe I'm mistaken, but I feel like for most of the year you've been playing on Rancor. Now, how did Rancor start? How did you join Rancor?
Actually, Rancor, me, Hamadi, Pierre, Corlath, GMR, Kentucky, and Roku started Rancor. So we met each other just in matchmaking. We all had mics, and back in the day when the game first came out, if somebody had a mic, you shot them a friend request. And we just started playing together, and Rancor became a thing.
So, did you guys all meet on Xbox? Were you all Xbox players at that point? Or was there a mix? I'm trying to think.
No,
No,
it
I
was
don't feel.
all crossplay.
Yeah. So how did...
I had a Discord server I had created a long time ago for Path of Exile with like 2 people in it. And I was just like, okay, renamed it, and this is Rancor now.
Oh, that's pretty cool. So then Rancor started right away. You guys just kind of started building it, and at a certain point, then you guys kind of had the 2 squads too, which I kind of mess up the names on them, which I always feel bad. Why don't you differentiate between the 2 squads as well?
There's Rancor and Rancor Roughnecks,
Mm-hmm.
or there was kind of. So that was, we just had more people that wanted to play competitively,
Mm-hmm.
and we didn't have room because of the roster limit for SEL,
right,
and stuff like that.
Cool. Yeah. So you guys have been grinding hard out of there all year. What do you think? What is like kind of Rancor been about? Has it just been kind of, I don't know. It's tough to say what is a team about. I guess it's because I don't know, what is Orange Squadron about. I guess Orange Squadron is kind of about like we play kind of at that late night hours. Is kind of how we kind of came to be. I guess Rancor just kind of grew from you guys meeting each other there and building the Discord out of it, sort of.
Pretty much, and we're more like, we want to play competitively, but we're also, I would say, a little bit more casual about it.
Yeah.
We're not like doing a bunch of team swapping and stuff like that. Just more so like, hey, you want to play? Let's practice and see what we can do.
Yeah.
For the most part.
Yeah, it's such a hard thing that way in Squadrons because there's not a gigantic community or anything, but there's like this mid-sized community, I guess, or this competitive community of like hundreds of people that are in varying degrees of seriousness of it, but we're all kind of competing, right? Like when you look at like a Cal Cup, there's like 30 teams, let's say, and yeah, there's like 5 to 10 teams who are like practicing really hard, and then another 10 teams who are like practicing but not as hard, and then 10 teams who are just like pretty casual about it. So there is such a mix there. You see, it is kind of cool that they can all coexist, and no one's that far off from anyone else, really. Like sometimes it may seem like the top, in my opinion, sometimes it may seem like the top teams may be a little further from everyone else, but they're still like very beatable in the great scheme of things. It's very possible for any of the teams to get upset.
I agree. I think it's honestly like what separates like CA Gold and some of the teams toward the top is just their efficiency.
Definitely.
Everything they do is planned and on time, on point.
I would agree. I'd agree so much. The execution and the timing is like, you know what I mean? Like it's like we need the beacons, then the dunks, and then they're like, if it's delays, they're like, we're gonna hit this play. Yeah, you're right. It's so
there's nothing new.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's pretty set. Everybody knows what to do. It's just a matter of who can do it better.
So thinking about this game over the whole year in the meta, what's been your favorite point of the year? When have you enjoyed the game the most?
For me, it would probably be like December, like I think Operation 2. And before the Defender and B-Wing.
Oh, you didn't like... What do you think? What was it about the Defender and the B-Wing that...
Well, the Defender was really, really, really broken when it got put in the game. And that was that period before that where like there were a few people that knew that the dead drifting had issues.
Yeah.
But not everybody knew about it, and like so it wasn't like rampant, everybody just dead drifting around all the time. And I felt like the game was a lot more competitive back then as far as like PvP side of the game.
It was I've been kind of talking to people about that time. There was it was like we were so kind of naive too. We didn't really understand how to do the damage properly on the flagships almost. So it was this different point of the game almost then, where PvP was so much more important to prolonged phases for like passive damage passive damage was the MVP in the game in those days to get the wins. Yeah, like, and I don't even think we realized, like, the amount of time before I realized how to take down shields on frigates that I played fleet battles is crazy to me now when I think about it. It was like I was just doing PvP, I think, for all of November basically until like I was just so bad. I just feel like people got so good. The A-Wing meta just killed me. I hated the A-Wing meta.
I miss the A-Wing.
Yeah, so that time after that where you're talking about, like, where you're looking at a great time too about December too is the Christmas break. There were so many people playing. So that's another factor too, that the player base started to get smaller and smaller as people realized about the dead drift, which, I mean, it did really, like, people want to talk about pinballing and other things that are making people evasive. To me, there was no time that there was less PvP than those dead drift days, I guess. Like, if they hadn't have fixed it, it would be crazy how little deaths there. If you could dead drift and pinball and zero throttle and multi drift and shield skip, like, all of those things, and the defender as it was before it was patched, like, no one would be dying ever. Like, it would be crazy.
Yeah, no, then the meta would still be win the opening phase with your TIE Bomber, 3 defenders, and then your TIE Bombers go back to the ship and get in a TIE Defender, because why not?
Well, you might have
that being said, like, one thing that we also, like, were not as efficient at back then was the dunking. And I think if we had been as efficient at dunking as we are now back then, that possibly that dead drift bug might not have been that big of a deal.
You make a good point. It's so hard to say because we kind of learn as it goes along, and yeah, there's waves to the game. Almost because I've been kind of seeing too, like, PvP, obviously. I mean, not like it was in November, but I feel like slowly we're getting to a point where PvP is actually at this next highest state that it's been in a while. Do you see it going that way? What do you think? Do you disagree?
It depends on the team and whether or not they have to.
Yeah, that's a fair point, because just like you're talking about a team like CA Gold and their efficiency, it's because they could PvP a lot if they really wanted to. They could do tons of PvP, but they just do look for it, I think, at the times when it's like of maximum value, and then be efficient with their damage, kind of the other way. So I think maybe I'm just kind of like thinking about from what you're saying, but I kind of see it as you can do PvP, but inevitably you have to kind of do damage anyway. Like, there's just a limit to how much PvP is going to get you anyway, other than fun.
There's no role in the game right now, unless you're playing dogfight mode, for anything that's not also doing cap ship damage. And that even includes the support with the ion lasers. Like, sure, they're not getting credit for a ton of cap ship damage, but they're stripping shields. They're doing what needs to be done. That's just how it is. Like, in general, there aren't many teams that's going to run an A-Wing and be successful. Just one A-Wing on your team in the high level is costing you the game.
It is. I mean, yeah, you're right. There's very few. I mean, like, I can't even think of anyone who's really maining an A-Wing at this point, right? Like, all of them have switched over. I mean, Stardude being like the one person, like, pretty much anyone else who would have flown an A-Wing is now getting into an X-Wing. So a few people more in the Interceptors here or there, but yeah, it's just plays is kind of.
And like, even the Interceptor is like, wouldn't a Defender just be objectively better?
Yeah, you're right.
You know
like,
what I mean?
what does the Interceptor bring to that the Defender can't do? Like, and the Defender has the ion. So yeah, I completely agree. It's hard to see it. Another thing that we should kind of talk about too is all year you've kind of been doing content creation and streaming. Did you stream before Squadrons?
No. Okay. A long time ago, I streamed some Halo 5, but we moved, and then the internet was not good enough. So I got back into it with Squadrons around December when I got the PC.
Yeah, when you got you said you were kind of making YouTube content as well, which I know you've kind of started to do more in the last little bit. Again, you've made some like YouTube
content. I got so like caught up doing the Twitch that I neglected the YouTube. So trying to get back into that and at least do some content for it at least once a week. You know,
even though I have a fair amount of time, sometimes I find it tough to make the YouTube content too. I have a few things that I want to do. It just, sometimes it just takes time that I don't have necessarily to make the videos, but I have some fun stuff too that I want to do. I really like your videos too, when the Mac Dog one, when you're kind of like showing like a random search from there too. Yeah.
The Mac Dog video.
Why don't you tell people about that one actually?
Why
don't you tell people about the Mac Dog video?
I don't really want to call the guy out any more than, but like.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you're right. I don't want to call him out. I was just thinking,
if you're a newer player and you see somebody in your lobby that's in the thousands, don't tell them how to play, unless it's Guts talent.
Yeah, there's very limited people.
Even then, Guts talent isn't that bad. Like, he should be better for his level, but he's not like the most terrible player in the game. You know what I mean?
Do you see yourself making more YouTube content in the future?
Yes, actually, I've got some stuff that I'm working on. It's just YouTube takes a lot more effort.
It really does. You're right.
Than turning on Twitch and hanging out with people, which I find more enjoyable. YouTube is more like actual work.
And I mean, sometimes, myself, I'm kind of known for being a little bit critical of the marbles, but I gotta say, I really do appreciate when you are doing it, because it's cool. Like, you're one of the best marbles streamers, I gotta say, in Squadrons too, because you make it super fun, I think, for everyone and keep them involved when you're streaming the marbles. What's your thinking with it? Do you like the marbles for that reason? Keeping it going during the queue?
I actually enjoy the marbles purely because of the interaction with your chat.
Yeah.
It creates marbles is a super easy way to be incredibly active and involved with your chat instead of just sitting there waiting for a game, right?
Yeah, I mean, that is you play in a time, but it's still pretty quiet. A lot of times you'll be jumping on in that morning time, usually when I'm kind of like jumping off too at that time, and it's a little bit quieter. So you go through that battle for the queue simulator too, which has kind of been annoying. How long have you been dealing with that? Because we've seen that in the orange hour since like December. When did you start seeing the queue simulator get a little longer?
Oh, it's since probably, I would say in January would be my guess.
Yeah.
Like right after the first Cal Cup.
And it just started. Probably. Yeah, kind of is a bummer that the game kind of,
But it wasn't that bad. Like, you wouldn't time out very often. But then, like, now, sometimes it's like 40, 60 minutes.
Yeah, I remember times happening. That used to happen to us when Death Watch was still playing in the orange hours. But there was times then the matchmaking was just so tight. They made it so that it would take, like, you would have to be people within your range or skill level, or it was just for the longest time. Yeah, they would, and they messed around with tightening it up and loosening it up, and now it's in a pretty good place. So thinking back about the, over the year and kind of how, the numbers have gone up or down, what do you think maybe they should have done different to kind of like help the game grow throughout the year?
To help the game grow? I mean, I'm actually pretty critical of EA and Motive with this game. Supporting and fixing bugs and balancing your game is not post-launch content. That is just industry standard. Like, this is the only game I've ever seen that was like, oh, this is a full game, and 6 months later, we don't care if it's still broken.
Yeah.
Good luck.
What is up with that, right?
Then,
how do they think that's acceptable?
Yeah, it's not. I mean, I play the game because I love the game, right? But like, it needed more love. I think going full on like, oh, this is no post content. Like, microtransactions for like ship skins could have been something they did. Like, we don't need like new ships or anything like that. Like, just to make enough money to afford to keep the team, to keep a small team of devs to keep updating and balancing. Just like, hey, this new here's an X-Wing skin from, Luke's Skywalker ship on Yavin. Pay $5.
I think they could have even gone more simple with it, even too. Like all these colors,
Or
like so they have like
yeah.
whatever, like Sirocco. That's like this, a pattern of like orange and basically white on it. Have 18 variations of all the different colors or whatever. Just have a bunch of colors available that are all unlocks, you know what I mean? That you would have to do, even if it was pay or glory or whatever, just having it both ways. Just little things like that would have been easy to put in the game and give people tons of things to grind for. I guess that's what I always thought. Not just like both having a pay option and a grind option is always, I think, the best way to go.
Yeah, I was just looking at it from a pure keep
Mm-hmm.
the devs around standpoint.
Yeah,
not
just to bring
players.
in. Mm-hmm.
I mean, like nobody in general, most people are not going to pick up the game and stick with it now, knowing that it's done. Like we're getting nothing else. Like there's no balance changes. There's nothing, and they didn't even take the time. They did all these server side balance changes, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they never even went back and did a client side patch to fix the practice mode.
Right. To implement that, yeah. So it's still the practice mode is on whatever the January update or something.
Crazy to me. Mm-hmm. And they started doing those server side balance changes in January.
Mm-hmm.
That's in a development site. That's just, it's not how games are done nowadays.
It is.
Not.
I feel like there's a whole other story to Squadrons. I don't know if we'll ever get to know that. If there was another plan for Squadrons, and the pandemic kind of changed things or something. I don't know. I feel like there was something to it. I have kind of I've wanted to talk to some of these different people, but I've reached out to them here and there, but they don't want to come on. But I mean, I kind of get it. They probably aren't allowed to or something. Something they probably or don't want to. They may just not want to. That's fair too. So, what do you think for the future of Squadrons? What do you think? Squadrons 2? Do you think it would be a flight game on another? What do you think Disney will do in the future? What would you like to see for Star Wars games and for a future Squadrons game?
I think, I don't know if it'll be Squadrons, but I think this is a great tech demo of what they can do. And they would be missing out on a huge opportunity if they did not release a Starfighter game for Star Wars with the Rogue Squadron movie.
Mm-hmm.
That being said, the Motive and EA, if they are the ones doing it, will have to convince me that they are going to stick around and actually support the game before I buy into it.
And you're not alone in that sentiment. People have been I've heard people say this, dude. They don't have any faith in what. I mean, especially if it's an EA game, they have no faith in it. I mean, even Motive now in the game they're working on, I wonder if they would. I guess it's hard to actually blame Motive because I feel like they're getting directive not to work on the game anymore, almost, or something. From what I hear from them.
I mean, yes, they are, but they had time to fix the issues, and
yeah, it's hard to get past it. Just like you said, saying you're gonna put out a game that will have nothing post-launch kind of implies that the game will be done and right when you put it out, and that just hasn't been the case. This game has never been finished, I guess. You know what I mean? There's yeah. There's always been more.
And nowadays, no games are. That's why you the idea of this is your game, this is what you pay for, and we're done with it at launch. That died with the 360.
Yeah.
The days of you can't even if you buy a game for your console, right? That disc doesn't have the full game on it. You're still downloading the game.
That's what's so funny about it too, because they have to make the discs a few weeks ago, and they know they're doing more stuff to the game over those next few weeks before it launched. So then you get your day one, you get your pre-launch patch, you get your day one patch, you get then the bug fix for the day one patch. Then they do the first patch. It's just crazy the way gaming is now. It's just guys, maybe you just need to finish your games before you reset. Yeah, Evil Coleslaw making the point in the chat. Indie studios would support their game 100 times longer. I've been playing that game. Chivalry, and it's basically in pre-launch phase still, even though it's out and it's a $40 game, but they're still they have a roadmap for plausible fixes. So even though I'm not really playing it right now, I do plan on playing it more again as it like gets fixed, because at least there's like I'm like, oh, I see a future where they're working on this game. Where I'm like, oh, I'm glad. I'm still not like, oh, it sucks. I'm still like, oh, it's a good game that I'll play. Like if Squadrons had a little bit of that, right? Like a little bit of like, hey, in 6 months at least this will be fixed, or we'll get back to it, or something like that would be. I feel like that would have kept a lot more people probably interested in the game a little bit more.
I don't disagree. I mean, I don't chips. We just balance changes. Even if like this something isn't explicitly broken, devs making balance changes to the meta to combat the meta of the game makes the game more interesting. Like, yes, some people will be upset because their ship got nerfed or their strategy got nerfed, but that changes the flow of the game. It keeps it fresh. It keeps people coming in. Like,
I agree, because that's like a fun part about this game. Like meta would switch like not weekly, every 2 weeks, 3 weeks. You know what? There would be like, oh, people's doing this. Oh, this is what's happening. Oh, wait, everyone's off phasing frigates now. It did happen a little bit this last few months, but it's kind of settled now. It was more just like everyone's figuring it out. Dunking maybe shield gens. It's taken a little bit, but you're right. It's not the same thing. I guess ICT coming back. ICT's kind of been a thing forever. That's not even, you're right. There's nothing really that new the way that there was, I think, pushing meta constantly now. Like, no one's coming really that far out of left field. I guess it's just like, maybe you can't completely OBJ evade your way to the win necessarily against some teams. You do have to mix in some PK, but it's not the tools necessarily that are changing. The meta's not fully changing that way.
No, it's just how the meta changes depending on the team you're playing.
Oh, that's a good point too.
Like playing IG is completely different than playing Splinter versus. I mean, I would even say like playing CA Gold versus is different than playing Splinter. I've scrimmed them both. Like it's different. We scrimmed them both the same night, right? And we got the exact opposite feedback from both teams.
That's pretty hilarious.
Like one of them, CA Gold was like, "Y'all need to pressure us more when we're going for your shield gens," and then Splinter was like, "No, you just need to AI farm because you're not going to kill us anyway."
Wow, it's just completely different mindsets coming from the two teams.
Don't know what
do we do with that? I mean, yeah, I guess I think maybe it's interesting too because it can almost depend on not just opponent but also like map. And then also faction. You need to like adjust your strategy to all these things. So the game is in a strategic point of view, it's very interesting now because I do feel like at this point of the game, maybe you'll disagree. At this point of the game, though, I do like the balance between factions. I do think there. Of course, the Empire has the advantage with DPS, but I feel like there's a little more like I feel like the balance is there. There's more style to the New Republic, where like the Empire just like. DPS smash, go! We're like, you gotta be like jazzy with New Republic. Be like, we're gonna come in, we're gonna disable the shields. We'll destroy one. Yeah, hey, take out power, out of phase. Like it's a little bit of different style.
Yeah, and they both have their strong suits. Right?
Oh, you know what? Before actually, another thing too, something we kind of talked about. I remember even like a few months ago, we were kind of talking about this. We were like. Everyone's saying rotary jet or this, that, and you were like, I'm rotary slam. You're a big rotary slam guy too. Do you want to talk about that at all?
Okay. If you have perfect power management with shunting and boost gasping at the same time with jet rotary, jet rotary is about 5% better than slam rotary. Not even Fencar has perfect power management on it. Okay.
Yeah.
Not all the time. So like slam, and I'm not the only one who uses it. There are quite a few people that.
But I remember too, we were like talking about it, and it seemed like no one was at one point. Or not, you know what I mean? Like it seemed like definitely less.
And I feel like it was nobody wanted to admit that they were using what was considered a suboptimal build.
Exactly. Yeah, I think you're right. It takes.
But like even like I've been talking to Jashiqua. Even Jashiqua runs rotary slam.
And
it's just easier.
Quintessence, another huge damage player, runs that.
And like could it be better if I wanted to be if I could be perfect all the time with the other build, yes, but I can't be, and I would argue like 99% of players can't or aren't going to put forth the effort to do so.
I mean, it's just
therefore,
yeah,
Rotary Slam is just simply easier.
100% agree. I think it's objectively easier. I think the other cool thing too, but another big Zultri thing is that you kind of like set the meta with this is with the B-wing out there. First of all, talking about holding the boost, something you taught me. That's like the better way to fly the B-wing that way. And of course, you're getting those huge damage games. I feel like I haven't seen anyone with more than what was your high? 200 and what thousand was your highest?
213k.
Yeah, I feel like that's the highest damage I've seen in a game. Let me know in the chat if anyone's seen higher. But yeah, so let me know about your B-wing thoughts then, because you're pushing that all year too. Well, not all year, but for the last little bit, more than anyone else. Well, as much as many other people. I guess Remnant as well had some B-wing strats that they pushed, but you were still with it.
I super enjoy flying the B-wing. I think it's the one part of New Republic meta I don't think we fully realized yet.
Okay.
I mean, I know it's a big target and it can be taken out fairly easily. I say fairly easily because you can be evasive in a B-wing and stay alive. I know between me and Fame playing one day, I had the horror on me the entire time I was bombing a cruiser. Like I killed the cruiser with horror shooting at me the whole time.
Yeah.
So it's not like you can't live with a little bit of pressure on you.
There was a day,
frankly, like there isn't a ship on the New Republic side or Empire side that does more damage than a B-wing. Like, if you could protect the B-wing and come up with a strategy to keep that B-wing alive, there isn't a ship that competes as far as just pure cap ship damage.
Someone was someone mentioned something like this today. It made me think, like, oh, they should have made the B-wing a shunt charge ship on the New Republic side. So it would have been the one shunt charge ship, basically. Like, if they had just done it that way or something, like, that you could shunt until from, like, I don't know. I feel like that would have been pretty interesting for it. I mean, I understand it's, maybe not with lore. Figure out a way to do it with lore, but something like that would have made it interesting, I feel like. So then maybe it could have been more survivable.
And I think the reason the B-wing is so unsurvivable is because it actually flies, for the most part, how I think the devs intended for all the ships to work.
I think you're kind of right.
Like, yeah, you can boost gas in it, but you can zero throttle pinball with the B-wing. It's just really bad at it. Like,
I think it has that. Maybe the hitbox is a bit too big for it or something, so it just makes it a little easier to hit. I don't know. I haven't really talked to the big PvPers or people who know to get a sense of that, but it could be something like that.
But it just can't. It can't go from 0 to max boost speed in less than a second.
Right, because it just takes that time for the boost to like register before you start moving.
Yep.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, well, you never know. Maybe in a future game, though, it would be interesting to see how they can take all of this and what they would do moving forward. Because I do like the idea of being able to, like, maximize your boost as much as possible. Like, I know it probably wasn't intended, but I feel like it makes the game better this way. It's just they needed to find a better way to balance the time to kill with that, I think. Because I like the boost mechanics of the game and being evasive that way.
I don't mind the boost mechanics. It should be a resource that you can run out of.
I think that's a very fair complaint. I feel like it should be very difficult to maximize to have infinite boost, which is probably a little easier than it should be. Even though I still die a lot, so I can't say it's that easy for me.
Well, I mean, the problem is, and they tried doing it to where that was the case, right? But all it did was reinforce the boost gasping. Like, you either did it perfectly or you were terrible.
Yeah.
Right? And then how do you stop the Empire with shunt charging? Like, shunt charging is actually, honestly, if people complaining about boost gasping should look at shunt charging. Shunt charging is absolutely broken.
Oh, yeah. I mean, to have infinite, I mean, that's why the Empire has the huge DPS. I mean, they already have this DPS advantage, and then they can you can constantly have overcharged lasers to make sure, it just really just sticking in the knife there and then also twisting it too, which to lore I guess is kind of cool, as people say, but for a balanced game that makes it tough. So that's why it takes so much more like style for the New Republic to overcome it. I mean, good teams do it. Like even when the Empire was vastly superior for a bit before they balanced them that little bit, people still did win with New Republic. It was just so much harder to do, and it was almost impossible to beat. To beat one of the top teams. It was almost impossible to upset them with Empire. It seemed
correct when the Y-wing was after the boost activation cost Earth, and the Y-wing was just a boat that got shot down.
It was for it was for farming, and then you switched off to your X-wing as soon as after you died, after you were killed.
And farming in a Y-wing back then was like, oh, all right, I'm gonna die. Like somebody shoots at a Y-wing, then you were just dead.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I forgot. I forgot how bad it was because now like the Y-wing, I just love it so much. It's my favorite ship in the game. It's my most comfortable ship lately. Like I like it more than, even though I shun charge in the bomber, I feel safer in the Y-wing, just because of the shields, right? Like I mean, the bomber, it you know what I mean? It will slowly lose, even against not good players. You're gonna slowly chip away, right? Like just because you don't have shields. With the Y-wing, if you're on, you're not gonna get dunked, and you're gonna have shields. So it's even, you know what I mean?
This is true.
Yeah, so that's the way I feel about the Y-wing. I just feel much more comfortable in it.
I actually, don't quote me. It might not be good. I'm testing it. I am actually messing with rotary slam on the Y-wing.
Yeah, you know what? I know a few people who are. Yeah. I think I'm not good at it. I'm just bad with the damage. Yeah, I'm just bad with the rotary. For sure. And you know what? The thing it's really good for burning raiders. It's got its place for sure. It's just that it's one of those things that people are probably like hating on without, you know what I mean? Like it's established that rotary slam on Y-wing is bad. Do not question that, Zultri, but I feel like we should, right? That's all that's left. Evil Coleslaw in the chat as well saying he's been messing around with rotary on the Y.
I mean, so I've been playing it quite a bit, and with the Y-wing's boost recharge the way it is right now, you don't need jet to have infinite boost. You can maintain boost with slam, boost gasping properly, which means I have time to actually put some charge into rotary, and rotary is more damage than slam. Or than standard,
period. Of course. Yeah. There's no question. I mean, it's just honestly, the charge time is the only thing. But honestly, I spend a lot of time being evasive in the Y-wing that I'm, you know what I mean, charging my standard. I guess thinking about it though, like I wonder if I would have a hard time getting that charge back on the rotary because of that reason. It just taking longer. I don't know. You know what? Maybe I will mess around too and set up a rotary slam build and see what I can do.
I was pleasantly surprised. Even without like overcharged rotary, the rotary, it's not like,
it's still better than standard. It's pretty close to the overcharged standard. Yeah, I don't know the differences on the numbers.
I think it's a little bit less than overcharged standard.
I think
but it's faster. That you apply the damage in faster bursts than you would with standard laser, which is
the charge
sometimes more important.
I'm trying to think. Maybe I'm mistaken. I just can't remember. Is the charged clip of rotary, does it last longer than a charged clip of standard? Maybe not.
What do you mean?
I don't know.
Like the overcharged? You still don't you barely still get to overcharge the rotary on the
right. Okay, gotcha.
Maybe a little bit here and there, but like it's just the way the meta is right now. There's really not a way to stop defenders. Not defenders, but like the defense, the Empire defense from farming the AI and doing what they need to do, right? So the meta is kind of, when you're on attack, you just pound the OBJ as hard as you can, as fast as you can, right?
Right. Yeah, no, totally.
Which
so then the rotary
says
catch up.
Y-wing makes more sense with rotary than standard because you need the burst damage. You don't need sustained damage.
Makes sense. I like the idea. You've inspired me to try it out now. So, what are you thinking for the future of Squadrons here? Is like the rest? I don't want to say like the rest of the year, but in the next little immediate future, you're gonna keep streaming. What are you thinking? Are you gonna switch games to stream wise in the future? Are you thinking about that at all, or?
The next like main game I'll be switching to will be Halo Infinite.
Oh, nice. When does that come out? I'm kind of interested in that as well.
We don't have a set release date yet. Holiday this year.
Oh, wicked. So
they're starting the first flights with their flights. They're like beta alphas this week.
Nice.
So.
Yeah, so that'd be cool. I feel like that's a game too, like, that maybe the Squadrons community maybe will move on to something like that. The other with the...
I know a ton of us are playing New World right now.
Oh, right, you had mentioned that one too, so that's another one I might check out too. That'd be interesting. It's like the Amazon one. And let everyone know where they can check out your Twitch and YouTube if they don't know. Here, I'll have it linked below too.
All right. It's just Zultri on YouTube and Zultri on Twitch.
Wicked, man. Just tell me about the charity event you have coming up, when it is, and everything behind it.
All right. So we're doing a charity stream on my Twitch channel for a local homeless veteran charity. It's going to be August 7th. It'll be a 24-hour stream starting at midnight on the 27th. Or not the 27th, but the 7th. And I'm going to try and raise about $1,000 or more. And if we reach the goal of $1,000, I'm going to have my wife shave my head and beard on stream.
Amazing. Oh my god. How could people... I feel like the whole Squadrons community is going to come out for that, for, amazing charity cause. Honestly, the Squadrons community all year has been amazing about taking part in different charity events, so that's awesome that you're putting... Man, really, I know you've been kind of looking to do something like this for a while, a big of charity event, so it's awesome that you're doing, man. I know you're going to have a ton of surprises for everyone, too, to check out. It's going to be a great event. Everyone should check it out. It'll be on your Twitch channel, I'm assuming, and we'll have announcements and everything leading up to that. So definitely promote that as much as I can. Thank you so much for doing the podcast here this week and going over everything, all your thoughts on Squadrons, man. It's great to have you on.
For sure, man.
And
thanks for having me.
Thank you, buddy. Fun. And thank you everybody here for checking out the podcast, listening, and really appreciate one check out the live podcast. We'll see you next time on the Star Wars Squadrons podcast.